Muscle contraction. In this module, you will learn about the mechanism of muscle contraction. All our body movements, such as walking and running, are possible due to the presence of muscles inside the body. You already know that myofibril, that is, the simplest unit of muscle, contains contractile proteins that help in the contraction of muscles and thus in body movements. The sliding filament theory is the most accepted theory which best explains how these proteins work to cause contraction of the muscles. The theory states that contraction of a muscle takes place by the sliding of the thin filaments over the thick filaments. Let us understand the steps given in the theory. The process of muscle contraction begins by a signal from the central nervous system, CNS. The signal is brought by the motor neurons from the CNS. These motor neurons are connected to the muscle fibers. The motor neuron with which a muscle fiber connects is called a motor unit. The junction between the motor neuron and the sarcolemma of the muscle fiber is known as the neuromuscular junction or the motor end plate. This junction is actually a synapse, that is, a small gap between the neuron and the muscle cell. The signals from the CNS are transported as electrical impulses, also known as action potential, across the synapse. A neural signal, on reaching the neuromuscular junction, releases a neurotransmitter, acetylcholine, thus generating an action potential in the sarcolemma. This action potential spreads through the muscle fiber and causes the release of calcium ions into the sarcoplasm from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. This in turn increases the level of calcium ions in the sarcoplasm. The increased level of calcium ions leads to the binding of calcium with the subunit of troponin on the actin filaments. This interaction triggers a conformational change in the tropomyosin, thus preventing it from masking the active sites for myosin present on the actin filaments, leaving them exposed. With the active sites of actin now exposed, the myosin heads start a binding process with actin, thus forming a cross bridge. The energy needed for the cross bridge